now we are bringing in two amazing speakers. They are wonderful friends of mine who have done tremendous work when it comes to supporting women professionally and personally. One of them is Elizabeth Pearson, who is the founder of Elizabeth Pearson Coaching. She coaches executives and women and men across the country when it comes to leadership, success, and just being a well-rounded leader at home, personally and professionally. So I'm super excited to bring Elizabeth on. We also have Erica Larson, who is the founder of the Live Rich movement. And I love, she's also a joy strategist. So that is something that I have never heard before. It was one of the things that really attracted me to her, because I'm like, I want anything that brings me joy. So welcome, Erica. And I am looking forward to learning more about both of you, and also what it means to build a vision for our career, for our home, for our life, especially in a year like this. I was just scrolling through social media, and somebody said 2021 was simply 2020 that went out to grab a wig and came back, as 2021. So pretty much we're still messing with the same guy, right? Girl with a wig. And so now it's really time for us to figure out how we want to, position ourselves for this year ahead. We know that we're still very much in a pandemic. We're still very much, working from home. At least 50% of us are working from home. And there's another 50% that is working outside of the home. And we are still very much taking care of our kids, overseeing virtual learning, and doing our household chores. I believe the numbers were about 65 to 72 hours of household chores every week. So that is in addition to full-time work. So, which is why this particular session is important to me, because I really want to know, how can I set myself up for success, but in a way that brings me joy, right? Which is why we have Erica to help us really piece that together in a way that truly brings mothers joy. I think we've had a very rough past year, and we can all use any ounce of joy that we can find anywhere. So welcome, Elizabeth. Welcome, Erica. I will leave you ladies to it. This is not a moderated session. This is a session where you both can really bring it home for us on how we can, again, envision a better year ahead for ourselves.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Blessing. I'm very excited to be hosting this with Erica. We were laughing this morning. We were trying to get the kids out. We were living parallel lives, and we had like 20 minutes to pull it together for all the moms. So we did it. So we feel your pain, ladies. We know you're probably like, am I going to learn anything that I don't know about vision boards in this amount of very precious time? So Erica and I were speaking yesterday about this, what we wanted to cover today, but we want to make sure that this is time well used. And we do think that we have some new things to show you and hopefully share with you around making vision boards actually work. Because I don't know, maybe you guys can put in the chat if you guys have done a vision board, if there's currently one hanging in a room of your house. But we're really going to kind of break it down today to make sure that you're living in alignment so that all of those wonderful things you want to come into your life can actually be allowed in. Right, Erica?
Yes. And before we hop into all of that goodness, I want to first thank Mother Honestly for even putting this together, because this is absolutely amazing and so necessary for this time and the space and in the universe. But then I also want to thank you guys who are tuning in for being here. Because you being here is an action of you prioritizing your joy. Like, whether you realize it or not, you may have thought, I'm just going to come and see what there is to be said. I'm going to learn something new. But even more than that, what you've done is taken a moment to prioritize your wellness, prioritize what feels good to you, and just trying to figure out new strategies and methods to get there. So I want to give you guys a hand clap real quick before we hop in. And yes, I'm really excited to get into this goodness and how vision boards can help you manifest whatever it is that you want, because you're limitless beings.
So first off, and Erica's the expert on this, so I'm going to ask you to speak to this, Erica, but this idea of creating clarity. we all think that we know what we want for ourselves, right? Like maybe if we just think about it, it'll come, whether it's a new job, maybe it's that wonderful nanny that you feel like you can really trust so that you can not have the mom guilt when you leave to go work, even if it's just in the other room with your children. But why, can you talk us a little bit about why it is important to have this sense of clarity?
It's really important to have a sense of clarity, because otherwise you're just kind of like throwing things at the wall and seeing what will stick. And let me tell you what that does. It does a couple of things. One, it creates more disorder and a sense of overwhelmedness. But more importantly, it creates blockages, so you can't even actually arrive where you ultimately want to go. So if you are instead focusing on the things that you want versus the things that you don't want, you're then able to attract those things, because let me tell y'all something. The law of attraction is real. It is so real. The idea of karma, the idea of magnetizing things and manifestation is real. And you can look at it both ways, right? And the reason why I love vision boarding is because you can, you create whatever it is that you have in your mind and in your heart. But in the same way that you create those things by faith, you can also create those things by fear. So I like to consider visualizing things from a faith over fear perspective. And the more you're able to do that and really like lean into and trust the things that you want are actually always working their ways towards you, then you're able to create those things. But if you aren't sure about what it is that you want, the same way you're putting out those signals for like the things that you do want, if you're like worried about things that you don't want, or if you're just all over the place, that's exactly what you'll attract. Mess.
Right. I always tell clients too, I say, you know, we need to get really clear on your goals. So I think that's a big piece of vision boarding, is like, what is the overall goal? And you might say, oh, I'm going to put a picture of a new car, right? I think a lot of people default into material things to put on a vision board. Okay, well then, so why do you want that car? Yeah. Okay, well, maybe you want safe transportation. Maybe you want the prestige of having that nice car. And then if you want that prestige, then why are you really feeling the need for that? Is there a void inside? Are you feeling insecure and you feel like you'll have made it if you're driving this car, or if you live in this place, or if you have this bag? It's one thing to want nice things, and that's great. I'm sure we all love nice things. There's no fault in that. But I think, to your point, like, getting really clear on, is this bringing you joy, or is this a temporary fix? And I think to add on to that clarity piece, I always try to tell clients, you know, if they'll outline goals and they'll say, you know, I want to feel happy in my job. And I'm like, okay, well, what part of it, right? Mm-hmm. I say, it's like if you go to Starbucks and you ask for them to give you a coffee. Can that barista give you a coffee if you just walk in and say, I want a coffee?
Any coffee.
Girlfriend's gonna have like 5 other questions. What size? What drip? What do you want? The universe is the same way, right? So if you go in and you just have some really vague kind of general, I want to have a new home, they can't give it to you. So you have to get very clear. But then this other piece, right, of just like letting go. You do it, and then you trust that it will come.
And you surrender it. And to your point, Elizabeth, of being super clear, and even knowing why you want things, there's also an element that's needed of understanding what success looks like for you and what will ultimately bring you as an individual joy. Because to your point of wanting things like big houses or nice cars, a lot of times I think, and I don't want to speak for the entire human race, but a lot of times I feel like there are things that are based on how we are then perceived by others. When really what we need to be worrying about is, how do you perceive yourself? How do you feel about yourself? What will innately bring you joy? And if it's a matter of considering all of these material things can come and go in the same way that money can come and go. But if you are ultimately fulfilled within yourself, and I talk a lot about faith and purpose in alignment with joy. Joy is the thing that helps you get on track to those things. But when you are ultimately living within your purpose, then you are able to create that fulfillment with yourself that will ultimately help you attract those things that you do want. but in a way that's in alignment with who you are as an individual versus the general, like, oh, it looks good for everyone else, so it must be good for me.
Yeah. And I love this too. And just to kind of let everybody know, we're going to be taking some questions. So some live Q&A. So if we're going through some stuff and something pops up, something specific that you want to ask, be sure to just add it in the chat or the Q&A option here so that we can talk about it. Because we're going to talk for a little bit and then we're going to open it up so that we can answer some questions. But yeah. I think that this is all kind of leading into this bigger understanding of our why. Right, Erica? Yeah. And I'm sure you guys have heard this all before, like understand your why. It sounds easier than it really can be to understand that why. Mm-hmm. And you could say, well, I want to just be more comfortable. I want to have less stress, right? If I had these things, I feel like I could have more joy. Okay, that's great. As long as you really understand the root of why you want something. We talked a lot about like putting material things on boards. I think it's great too to put philanthropic things that you want to do on a board. If you want to make social impact in your community or in the world, maybe you want to run for office, like all of these kinds of things. These are wonderful additions to your vision board so that it can feel really well-rounded. Because if it is just a bunch of material things, you might find yourself going back and re-examining your why, right? Why do I want to do all of this? Versus what is my purpose? Why am I here? What life experiences do I want to have in this particular physical manifestation, right? If you start getting really spiritual with it, you might find when you peel back those layers, there's a bigger why. This why of existence. And then all of these wonderful things could actually support you either having a breakthrough or rising to that higher potential.
Yes. And I love the fact that you even started to bring in the things that are non-material, because I think a lot of times when people do start doing vision boards, they consider things based on what they see in the magazines, you know, like it's like, oh, well, this looks nice. This looks nice. This is a pretty picture. That would look nice on my board. But really, when you start to prioritize your why, you start to break down what it will take for you to actually arrive at that why. And I like to think about it in different sections, right? Because when you are thinking about your joy, and for me, it's really important that people prioritize their joy because it allows you to be selfish in a way that helps you be selfless to others. Mm. So then ultimately you arrive in a space where you're so full and you're so brimming and overwhelmed with this feeling of goodness that it just begins to overflow and pour out into like your life, your family's life, your friends and them, like everybody, even strangers on the street will then begin to have an experience of joy in interacting with you. But when you think about this and you prioritize it, you're then able to see what will help you arrive there. And I think about it in 3 different pieces, right? And considering vision boards. And I guess maybe we're segueing into how to actually create them. But I think about it in terms of my wellness, my overall wellness. And for me, that's comprised of 5 things, like spiritual wellness, first and foremost, because that affects your mental wellness. Your mental wellness affects your physical wellness, your social wellness, your financial wellness, as well as, the spiritual piece. So your spiritual wellness helps you manifest those things and also helps you cultivate wellness in all of those areas, where a lot of people put emphasis on the physical first. But if your mind isn't right, sometimes it's really hard to just bring yourself to a point where you're ready and able to get out of bed. Like, I mean, I'm sure some moms have experienced it where it's like, oh my gosh, like today is another day in this pandemic. It's another day of quarantine living.
Right.
Just get through this.
You're so right. But you're to that point, right? Like if you are kind of feeling like overwhelmed, which I mean, God, we all are, right? Anybody who's on here who is a parent is feeling overwhelmed, I'm going to guess at some point during the day. But I think to your point, if you can like maybe have a physical reminder of the things that bring you joy as a kind of a touchstone throughout the day, you can pull yourself back into this alignment, right? Yes. So that you are living from a place of physical, spiritual, mental wellness versus kind of going down the rabbit hole of things you have to do that day and just getting through, right? Like I just got to get through today and then the weekend comes, Which is another whole hot mess. But
Essentially the same thing. There are no weekends in a pandemic.
There are none, and especially not even with little kids. It's like the weekends are harder than the week. But if you have this vision board, it is kind of like a snapback. It can kind of snap you out of it as long as the things that you have curated your board with really make you feel joy. So if you have things on there like maybe you have a new Louis purse or something, and the feeling behind it is really, I'm going to show my friends that even during a pandemic, I'm doing all right, or something like that. That's a misalignment. So not only are you probably not going to manifest that purse, but it's probably going to be turn into kind of a competitive negative thing that is a focus point through your day. Mm-hmm. So to Erica's point, the whole idea of these vision boards isn't necessarily to, I don't want to say get that exact thing, but it's to get the feeling, right? That thing would bring you. And then once you're on that higher vibration for longer periods throughout the day, those things can flow to you. I try to explain it to clients too as our natural state is like a cork bobbing on water, right? So when you're born and when you sleep and when you have these mental, breaks, like when you meditate, your cork is bobbing nice and high. This is where all the good stuff is. This is where all the stuff you want to manifest from your vision board lives. It's like a highway, but you wake up and then the kid's crying and then your cork goes a little underwater and then they blew out their diaper and then it really goes lower and then something else happens. And throughout the day, your cork is being tugged underwater throughout. So if you can look at a vision board and take yourself mentally there, your cork will rise to where the stuff is. Also meditation. I mean, I know this is a vision board workshop, but meditation, I mean, Erica, back me up on this. If you're not chanting or meditating or giving your mind a break throughout the day to let that cork rise again, if your mind isn't right, as Erica said, none of this can find you, sweetie. You gotta have breaks. Whether it's a partner or you hire some mommy's helper to take the kids and put them in the other room with an iPad so you can meditate for 20 minutes, anything. But the vision board stuff is trying to get to you, but you have to be in alignment. Your cork has to be nice and high because when it's down here, you get the murky stuff. Yeah. You get, bad things happening. Everybody's like, things just keep happening that are not good to me. Well, sweetie, your cork is way down here and this is the only stuff that can find you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You're like speaking my language so much so my armpits are starting to sweat. I'm so excited. But when you think about meditation, and because I am so there with you, a lot of people, I think of meditation as something that's really hard to get into since we're talking about meditation, because all of this is like in the spiritual, the unseen, non-physical realm, right? Or focusing on those things as far as wellness goes. So for someone who may be having trouble even getting to a space where they can meditate because of all of the stuff that's constantly coming at them, I would say, and this is my thing, again, prioritize your joy. Do whatever feels good in the moment. Like Elizabeth said, if that means stuffing your kids in a room and putting them in front of an iPad so that you can have 5 minutes by yourself. And this is what I'm going to tell you guys to do to even get you into that space. And it's almost an instant pick me up every single time. Put on some music and dance.
Yes.
Put on some music and dance. It puts you in the ultimate state of surrender. Because at this point, you're not concentrating on what's happening around you. You're just allowing your body to do what it naturally does. And ultimately, like Elizabeth said, our default mode is just floating. When we're born, we have absolutely no negative or positive feelings about anything. We just are. And then we attract things, or we learn things, or we pick things up along the way based on our life experiences. And if we are in a place where we're dancing, like you hear a kid, when a kid hears music, look at your children. Actually, that's what I'm going to tell you to do. Yeah. As a matter of fact, don't stuff your kids away. Bring them in on the action, because then everybody will feel good. I love dancing with my kids. It's like, it creates a natural high for everyone. Right. So if you're finding it hard to even get to the point where you can sit down and break out the noise, or you break out of the noise, invite like positive noise in that makes you feel good, so that way you're able to realign yourself and kind of put yourself back on that level plane.
Right. But drinking wine and watching Housewives doesn't make your cork rise. They'll say, that brings me joy. That makes me feel good. Do that after.
Yes.
Time. Like, let's talk about what the vision board should look like. Should we do that, Erica? Because we're talking about being in alignment, right? Dancing, singing, all these things bring you there. But today, this is kind of like your quick fix too, right? Like, you'll have this vision board, and even if you look at it and then close your eyes, feel yourself there. I have a picture of, being in an Emirates flight in one of those laid down pods and silk pajamas and a silk eye mask. I went on Amazon, bought myself a silk eye mask, have a silk pillow cover, and I feel it, and I close my eyes and I look at that picture on my vision board, and I know it's going to happen. I don't have to worry about how it's going to happen. I don't have to worry about when it's going to happen. I just know that I have put it out there and I feel it, and I know the joy it's going to make me feel to be flying very far away from my family at some point. So I go there. But this is the trigger. This is the genius of the vision board. It is a trigger to take you into that place of already having. So we have the traditional one. So Erica, you're a vision board queen. You want to show them how you did yours?
Yes. So to your point of like believing in things and putting things on your board, this, you guys, is my board. I keep it somewhere where I can see it every single day. It's right here. This is the middle of our living room. I love this one in particular because I used to do the big boards, but this is nice and compact. But look at what it does, you guys. Bam. Bam. Accordion vision boards. Oh, there you go.
There we go. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Scooter. I always say big visions popping over here, okay? Because the more you put out into the world what you want, and the more you're clear about what you want, that's what you can attract for yourself. I started to speak a little bit about the wellness piece. I generally tend to break my vision board up into 3 sections. So this is my wellness section. You guys can see that, and that focuses on the 5 areas of wellness that I told you guys about. Over here, we have, I don't know if this can all fit. Am I going this way? Yeah, I'm going this way. Over here, we have spiritual wellness, starting your day right with prayer. It works wonders. Seeking and striving in it with your whole heart, whatever it is that you're believing in. And I can talk more about that later because I'm all about the faith life. Waking up with more energy, so getting more rest. Eating healthy, doing yoga, which I implemented last year, changed my life. And then like savoring the skin I'm in. Working out, outdoors, going on runs, living on wheels, pledging time to celebrate the little wins and self-care. Then next, I always do a section on my relationships, whether that be my marital relationship, or my partnership, with my children, my relationship with my children, my relationship with my family. So just like making sure that you're also creating space to remember to prioritize the joy of your relationships. And then lastly, I always do a section that's just for me. I call this my selfish section because this is where I concentrate on my dreams. I concentrate on my business. I concentrate on all of the aspirations, what I would like my home to look like, trips, like all of these things that really speak to you as an individual are things that you should place on your board.
Erica, where did you find that? People are asking, where did you find an accordion vision board?
I made it. Oh my gosh. I can tell you guys more about that later. But I love arts and crafts. That's part of the reason why I love vision boarding so much. But I made this vision board, and it's I started making them this way like 3 years ago, and it has been absolutely like game changing because then you can also flip through it like a book. Which is really nice. And then you can focus where you want to. At the beginning of each year, I pray on over my vision board. And it's just a wonderful experience.
This is another option too, ladies. If you don't have, like Erica's is genius. I have like a big frame and I just put like some almost like chicken wire on it and stapled it. And then I've got these little safety or like clothespins, and I've got things pinned up like Habitat for Humanity and all these wonderful things like people I want to meet. But if you are like hard on space and time, there's another thing called a creator box. So this is really fun too. This is just like a box from Marshall's or whatever, right? And $1.99. And you can basically do a vision board in a box. So what I've done is I have different things in here that I want. So like I want to be with Kathy Lee and Hoda. Someday I'm coming to see them. I've got things in here. So you can do everything that you would put in a regular vision board box. You can print stuff out off the internet or through magazines. And then you can look at them, feel them, and then very tidy, you know what I mean? Put them in your box. And then I'll take this out and look at it just kind of like when I feel the urge to. It is best if you have it somewhere so that maybe you look at it every morning or something like that. But if you don't, if you feel like your desires are personal and maybe even private, maybe you have roommates or your husband, whatever, you just don't want to have it out, you can do this or do what Erica did and just tuck it away. And in some of the chat questions I hear, how can I even start this? I feel overwhelmed at the idea of doing a vision board. It's just one more thing to do. I see you, I feel you, but ladies, we have to prioritize yourself. The laundry can wait. Get some food sent over, call your support system to make dinner one night and go in your bedroom, shut the dang door, figure it out. Because if you can't prioritize 30 minutes to make a creator box, to throw some stuff in a box and feel it, or a vision board, then I can tell that you're already sacrificing way too much. You have to be able to find time for you. This is your future. This is getting in alignment for how you want to live your life. So 30 minutes to do this, maybe an hour. Do it with girlfriends on a Zoom, or if they're in your pod or whatever, you can make a party out of it, but you have to find time. There's really no excuse. You're accountable to yourself.
And I'd also love to add, for those who are feeling so overwhelmed that you can't even begin to put yourself in that mental state, one, you are sacrificing too much for yourself, but two, you don't even realize how much you're sacrificing for your family. The very people that you feel like you need to invest all of your time and energy for, you are giving them a fraction of the person that they need to know. You're not allowing yourself to live in the fullness of who you are. The best parts of yourself are not getting your attention. So that means that your family is not getting those amazing parts of your being. They aren't getting you in your fullest as far as joy is concerned. They are not getting you in a state where you're in a space for creativity, where you're living in your purpose, whatever that may be. If you are someone who is simply going to work every day and you come back exhausted, or you're working from home to the point where you're like worked to the bone, so you can't have time to play with your kids because you've been prioritizing all of the responsibilities, like, you have to recognize that in allowing yourself to be selfish, because I always say selfish allows you to be selfless, you're then exposing your entire self, your fullest, most amazing self to the very people that you're essentially sacrificing yourself for right now. But more importantly, this work and living in your joy and living fully and creating a vision of the life that you want for yourself ultimately creates a legacy that will benefit your children. Like, whatever it is that you build, whatever vision it is that you create for yourself, whether it's to live in a bigger house, whether it is, or live somewhere else, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a bigger house. I personally want to live in a tiny house, a school bus, conversation for a different day. Whether it is getting that dream job, whether it is building a business, stepping out on faith and building a business for yourself, whatever it is that you visualize for yourself, you have to recognize will ultimately be something that will benefit your children. It'll put you in a happier space, and it will put you in a position to start creating a legacy, whatever that legacy is, that you could potentially hand down to your children. If they don't want to take part in it, that's fine. At least they had a mommy that was like super happy in that space and time. Or if it's something where it ultimately creates extra income or finances or whatever the case is, then that's great, because then you can send your kids to school, save money to like send them to college or in extracurricular activities or whatever the case is. But you're doing this, you're being selfish for more than yourself. You're being selfish so you can be your best self for the people around you.
And just to add on that, because you are taking us to church and I love it. Not only that, moms, I don't want to have to play like the mom guilt card, but I will. If you are letting yourself get so depleted to the point where, you can't meditate, you can't find 30 minutes, you can't take time for yourself for a run, you are teaching your children that is what is acceptable for them, especially the moms of little girls.
Oh, yeah.
You are teaching them that living from a place of lack and depletion and sacrifice is what they should be doing too. So I don't know about you, Erica, but and I try to meditate every day. It doesn't happen every single day, but I will purposely go into the playroom and get their attention and say, mommy's going to meditate for an hour to take care of herself. You need to be quiet. They are learning, right? Every time I go for a run, I make sure I let them know, because I want them to see me taking care of myself so that they know it's what they should be doing for themselves. So ladies, you are modeling for your whole family what is acceptable. So if you can't make time for yourself, or you won't, it might just be that. I mean, I get it. We're all struggling, but everybody's got excuses. We all have them. I feel you. You could have 5 kids in the next room and it's hard just to even be on this, but there's always a way. You just have to find it. There's always a way. You have to take care of yourself.
Yeah, I feel like we are kindred spirits, because I promise you that's the very reason why I started down. It took a transitional phase for me to recognize the need for this. And one of those transitional phases was coming into motherhood, but becoming a mother to a little girl. And it was at that point that I was like, some stuff's got to shift. Some stuff's got to change. And I do the very things that you do. Prioritize what makes you feel good, and you teach them. There's a piece about this that's really important in communicating with your children. A lot of people think that it confuses them or whatnot, but children are very smart. If you have a conversation with them and explain why you're doing what you're doing, they understand in a way that then ultimately allows them to support you through this process. So to your point of explaining what's going on, I told my kids before this presentation, I was like, listen, mommy has some work to do. You guys got to stay in your room. I made sure they use the bathroom, put them in their separate spaces. And I told them, this is not just for me, it's for you, but also it feels great. And they understand. Someone stated that for those who don't have help with the kids, how do you find time to clear your mind or prioritize yourself? I want to say, like I've been saying pretty much this whole time, be selfish, do what you got to do. If it means TV time for a half hour, put them in front of the TV for a half hour. They will be absolutely fine. Make sure that whatever it is that they're watching is something that is in alignment with what you want in your home. But make it something.
Yeah, or do it after they go to bed, right, Erica? We all find an hour to watch Netflix every night. I'm looking at you. I know we do. I do too. Some days I know if I can sit my butt on the couch with a glass of wine and watch an hour of Netflix, I have time to be doing some of these other things. I'm making a choice not to do them. So I think that having that awareness of I'm choosing to do something else that isn't going to get me to these goals. That's why it might seem so simple, right? Like ripping out pieces of paper or writing things down that you want. But it will start to permeate your subconscious mind. Your mind will figure it out. The universe will figure it out. But you have to give it the space to breathe and the time for you to rise up and be in that alignment for the things to come. And so if you're really struggling, the kids will sleep at some point. So when they sleep, I know that's usually your decompression time. It's super fun doing a vision board, guys. It's so super fun. Somebody else asked, how can we put actions behind them? And I love that, Erica, right? Because we can be vibing good, have our vision board up, and then just where's my stuff? Waiting for it. That's not going to do it either. You have to take some inspired action. And you're probably going to have to overcome some resistance that will pop up when you start to expand or grow or kind of break free of this mold, this box that you've been in. Some people might not even like it. You might lose some friends. I don't know about you, but when I had my awakening kind of big growth spurt, I feel like spiritually, I lost about 90% of my friends.
Oh my God.
They wanted to kind of stay in this comfort zone of theirs, and that's totally fine, but it's different. So get yourself some friends who are into this stuff too, because that's going to help you take action. It's going to help you stay committed, and it's going to help you continue to raise the bar on the things that you want for your life, the things that you have on your board.
I love that accountability is a huge thing for me and the work that I do with my clients. Like we got a whole little club going on virtually as well as in person. But I wanted to also add that you got to do it scared. Do it anyway. Like, because the resistance that Elizabeth spoke to most of the time shows up as fear. But again, this is where that faith over fear mentality comes in, because these action steps or the action steps that you maybe considering how to take or what to take are usually the things that you don't want to do, or they're the things that scare you. So like, I like to make it a challenge, and a challenge in joy, because, you know, on the other side, whether you fail or not, you would have learned something. There's some form of growth that's experienced, is to do it, whatever it is, you know, like just start and step out on faith, because I promise you, and this also ties into visualization, the moment you begin to move in faith, your creator's faithfulness steps in, and he just like, you just start to attract the very things that you want. But at first you have to be willing to do the things, and you don't have to have it all figured out. Like Elizabeth said earlier, you don't have to know all of the details. You just simply have to start. Yeah.
I really like, there was a question too, Erica, that's what are the 3 questions that we can use to get started? So I loved how you kind of broke it down into different wellness chunks, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
The 3 questions that I typically ask, and I don't want to get like super spiritual on here, but
go ahead.
Okay, I can go ahead. Okay, I'm about to go off. No, I'm just kidding. The first thing is this aligned with my purpose? Like, what is my purpose for the new year? What is the message that is being given to me? If you see this board here, in 2020, because this is my 2020 board, it was by faith. And this came to me as I was like praying on it. And when I tell you guys there was this whole divine story, I'm going to put a podcast episode out about it. It's like wild. It's crazy how it aligned. But it's based on the scripture, Hebrews 11:1, where we move by faith, and not faith by not fear, but faith is believing in the things unseen. So whatever it is that you create with your mind is actually what will happen. So if you are going to go for anything, if you're going to try to activate anything, activate the good stuff, go for gold, like dream big dreams, you know, and know and trust by faith that those things will happen. So one, I think, what is my purpose for 2021? What is it that God wants me? How is it that God wants me to operate? That's the first thing. The second thing is, what does joy look like for me right now? And what is the picture of joy that I would like to create for the next 365 days moving forward? You know? And then lastly,
right now is being at a resort away from our kids.
Right.
Like, joy is a glass of wine on the couch at night, which you're telling me I can't do.
I'm like, whatever makes me want to dance, whatever makes my heart sing in that moment. And then lastly, I look at my resources, not so much to consider, well, I don't have this, I don't have that, but just to evaluate what's been given to me in this space and time and how I can utilize it to get to what I put on the board, you know, or whatever it is that I have in mind. Because you can't get to where you want to go if you don't even evaluate where you are at the moment, where you've been and currently where you are. So those are the 3 things that I typically think about. But again, the resources aren't like the huge piece, because again, you're moving by faith. So you put it on the board, you pray over it, you thank God for it happening, praying from a position of gratitude versus like lack and scarcity, because he's an abundant creator. He's an abundant God, you know? So it's crazy. I promise you, so many things that were on this board happened for me in a way that I didn't even expect, but they happened. It's wild.
They totally do. And just for everybody out there too, I'm very spiritual, not religious. Every time we say God or whatever, that's your soul too, right? If we're all pieces of this universal energy, that is maybe a whatever you want to call it. But I feel like too, the point Erica's making is when you are operating from joy, as she says, right? Like, to me, that's your purpose. I don't even need to figure out. So many people come to me and say, I don't know what my purpose is. What is all this about? And it's like, I think your only job in life, your only purpose is to be happy. So what makes you happy? Because if we're all walking around here with joy beaming from us, what kind of world are we going to live in?
Oh my
It's
God.
going to be pretty amazing, right?
Elizabeth,
So-
I love you. That's exactly how I feel. I always say, I think I even put a podcast episode out called Joy is Our Job. It is,
it's your only job.
Our only job. Because
Right.
the moment you are able to do that, and this is tied to purpose in a number of ways. And I always say, when you find your joy, it puts you on the path of what your purpose is. So you don't even have to go finding it, because really and truly, it's always been with you. The question is, have you been prioritizing yourself enough to recognize what it is with clarity? You
Right.
know?
And ladies, that's where the meditation comes in. You can pray. Meditation is the answers. The answers start coming. The vision board is the asking, the meditation is the answering. And so it really is, I can tell you from somebody who really did not used to meditate, it is a complete game changer. So even if there's so many different apps out there now, Deepak and Oprah have an amazing one. There's always these free 21 days, but just try a little, like, because I feel like that really goes hand in hand with the vision board, right? Or dancing or running, but like, you got to get that vibe high in order for the vision board to work. Yeah. And what Erica's saying, let it evolve, always expand on it. And because maybe you'll put a big fancy house up there and then you'll really start looking at it and feeling like, I'm actually great where I am, right? Or maybe even a tiny house, maybe something less, because that's the other thing we got to watch out for. If we keep just adding stuff, it will become a weight. It will actually potentially suppress, you know, what your soul's purpose is.
Yes.
Right.
And to that point, that's why it's really important to constantly be evaluating what your vision actually is, because it does change. It does shift. Your purpose may not, or the place or the way in which you utilize your purpose or you're being used in your purpose may shift a little bit, you know, but at the core of it, your purpose, like who you are, the essence of what you've been placed here to do, is the same. It just may look different in different spaces. And once you gain clarity around that, you're able to activate it on a regular basis, which ultimately raises your joy levels.
Absolutely. And then when you're in that place of joy, that's where all the wonderful miracles start coming. That's the other thing too. I've had some people say, well, I don't know if I believe in that. And to that, I just respond. I mean, we're all mamas, right? So we've seen the miracle of babies. These little spirits. So I'm like that's the mind blow, right? Like that's the miracle. So if you can create life, but you don't think you can create a new Jeep Grand Cherokee or whatever it is you want, you're crazy. Like you can create whatever life you want. There is nothing too big, but it's just taking these steps to get into alignment, get really clear, make it part of your routine, to where you're looking at it, you're believing it, you're feeling joy, but joy and detachment. Like, it's great if I get it, but I'm also really good if I don't. That is like, boom, that's when the lightning strikes and all these wonderful people and things will start flowing into your life really effortlessly.
Oh, I couldn't say it better myself. I'm so excited about this. Oh man, I feel like this has gone by so quickly.
Yeah.
It's been so good.
But I think too that, you know, you guys can obviously connect with us. I love Erica's IG feed, and there it is right there. There's some information on how to follow us. We're always putting out free content, and if you have any questions after this, you can reach out to us there too on LinkedIn or our websites.
Yes. And if you guys love these tips and you want more conversation, or if you want to start implementing some of the things that you've heard as far as how to create a vision board, I'm actually having a vision board party in a couple of weeks. So you can find out more information about that stuff on my site as well, if you're interested in deep diving into the vision boarding world.
Awesome. I'll be there.
Yes, come through.
I think we're going back to blessing now.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming, ladies.
Yeah, thanks for everybody.
All right. Wow. I mean, that was amazing. Thank you so much, ladies. I think I've done the vision boarding once, and you know, it's always the pretty pictures and everything. And I was like, no, that's not for me. So I really love the way you ladies broke it down. And that's something that I'm going to take to heart. I'm actually more of a vision box person now. So I think we're going to be keeping things kind of like next to the desk as opposed to, all over the place. I don't want everybody coming in to see what I'm up to, right? So thank you so much for taking the time. I think we've all learned a lot today, especially me, because I know that I'm not that great with vision boarding. So this is a perfect opportunity to kind of restart that all over again.